In 2015, my 18-year-old son, River, cornered me in the kitchen. "I don't want to go to university anymore, Dad," he said. "I want to be a rock and roll star. Join a band. Be really famous." He was shaking, giddy with excitement. "Oh yeah," I said. "And if that doesn't work out?" "If that doesn't work out, Dad, I'll go to university, I'll complete my drama degree, and I will become River Reeves, the next James Bond." He was being deadly serious. "Being a parent is difficult." "It's not going to happen, son," I said. And then what followed can only be described as a masterclass of persuasion. "You're a head teacher, Dad." "I am, River. And outside your school is this huge sign that reads, 'Dare to Dream,' that you had put up. There is, Riv. And every week you and your staff give assemblies and imploring your students to dare to dream, to be the best versions of themselves that they could be. We do, Riv. So," and there it was, right there, right then. Hypocrite Dad caved in, and River Reeves became the lead guitarist of the Warrington band, Viola Beach. Saturday, February the 13th, 2016. A knock at the door, I ignore it. A second knock, louder. I ignore that too. Then the doorbell, twice. Reluctantly, I open the door. And before the police officer has even got time to show me his badge, I knew in an instant that my River had been killed, that I would never see him again. For me, in that moment, the clock simply stopped. And as I watched the officer's lips move, I suddenly took very, very slowly in that Riv hadn't died alone. He had in fact been killed alongside his 3 bandmates and manager in Sweden, travelling back from their first and only European gig. What do you do when tragedy hits? And more importantly, who is it that you become? I've spent the last 6 years trying to navigate and answer those questions. In part, it's about being a parent, yes. It's also about the journey of grief itself. But for me, it was about finding purpose and meaning. I did see River one more time. There he was, laid out perfectly still. A large white linen shroud covering his entire body, including his beautiful but now unrecognizable face. The police officer had said to me, "Don't look," and I couldn't. How could I? And then I said something so futile, it embarrasses me to say it in front of you here. "Come on, Riv! Get up. Please get up." And I held his hand, his cold, limp, delicate hand in my own. And I wept so hard that my tears bounced off his fingers. How I wished those tears could bring him back to life. In an instant, I'd lost the opportunity to be a better dad to my Riv. And the only thing I could do in that moment, the only way that I could reconnect with the world, to renegotiate my place in it, was to make Riv a promise. And I did, right there, right then. I promised my son River that good stuff would happen. In his name, good stuff would happen. I didn't know what or how, but his 19 years had to mean something. And that promise was my first step in trying to make sense of what had happened, trying to understand the irreversible tragedy that had happened. And in June of 2016, I started to find some answers. Or so I thought. I'm at Glastonbury, and I'm surrounded by River's closest family, the people that loved him the most. 120,000 festival goers, all eyes fixed on the headline act, Coldplay. And suddenly there he is, up on the screen. My Riv, doing what he loved the most, with his beloved Viola Beach bandmates, making music. And in that moment, I was watching my son jamming with Coldplay. And Chris Martin, the lead singer, was paying tribute to the band, mourning their loss. And in a slightly fluttering voice, he implored the world to create Viola Beach's future. And that was it. I looked at my wife, tears in my eyes. That was it, the penny dropped. The River Reeves Foundation would create alternate futures in my son's name. And guess what? Good stuff started to happen. The album went to #1. Rivfest became an annual festival in Warrington. Vintage Viola, my wife's magical charity shop, was created. Change, positivity from the depths of despair. This was great, wasn't it? Here's the thing. I felt hollow, I felt empty. And this raging emptiness was the second stage in trying to make sense of what had happened. I was struggling. We ran out of money. The debts rose. Didn't make sense. If anything, I seemed to be going backwards. Soul searching for purpose and meaning doesn't pay the bills. My wife was very clear. You've got to sort it out. You've got to get real. So I got a job. I became a night shift worker at Amazon, a parcel operative. Me, with an overinflated sense of my self-importance, an ex-head teacher, no less. What was I doing? I was dreading it. But get this. That experience at Amazon was the most transformational 6 months. The anonymity, the kindness of strangers, the comradeship from people who just knew me as Ben. Each new night shift, a new now. And I slowly began to realize that I got it wrong. That my ego had been my undoing. That I'd been listening to the wrong voice, that I'd been reading the wrong script. And I slowly began to understand a much simpler truth. I don't need to understand the tragedy. I don't need to make sense or purpose from what happened. There is no sense or purpose. I just needed to live in the now. Love those around me in the now. And that was my third step as I tiptoe my way across this grieving landscape. I just need to live in the now. So I implore you, just as Chris Martin implored the world to create Viola Beach's alternate future. And I know it's not easy. I struggle with it daily. But I implore you, treasure the now, because you never know when too late may arrive. And this third step, this gives me the hope that will create my own alternate future. The hope that will create the alternate futures of others. This is the legacy for my son. Hey, Riv! Promise kept. Thank you. Thank you.